Alrighty, I'm calling all lawyers. Lawyers. If you're an attorney, if you are experienced especially in gaining public records requests from prisons, please keep watching. I have questions for you at the end. Please feel free to comment. So of course this is about Mackenzie Shirilla and her ORW prison calls and video visits. I know they won't be released. I don't want anything that we are not legally allowed to have according to the law, but there might be some legal wiggle room to get her ViaPath and her JPay messages and the logs. So I've kind of been going back and forth in this legal tete-a-tete with the prison, and I want to explain what's happening here. So again, keep watching. Please feel free to comment your retainer amounts, especially your experience, if you have experience in gaining public records. Now, we, and I mean all of us here who've been, especially my day ones, Plunder, back with the Watts case, we have fought the good fight of faith in gaining public records before. And by the grace of God, we have gotten some amazing ones. Perhaps now we'll win this fight to get more of Mackenzie Shirilla's public records. Legally, of course. Now, you might remember when I asked for legal help or for any attorney I could hire back in the day to get Nicole Kassinger's interview. I ended up writing an intent to sue myself in order to get this interview, the video of Chris Watts's mistress. Thank God that legal intent to sue letter sent off to Colorado was enough to get her interview released. You guys might remember I wrote, back in 2022, I think it was, I wrote, the Frederick Police Department refuses to release the video interview from August 16th, 2018 of Nicole Kassinger, Chris Watts's mistress. Back then I was told it was in their evidence room, and the Weld County DA doesn't have a copy of the DVD to give to the public, and it's the public's right to see it via the Colorado Open Records Act. You guys might remember that horrific, Sunday into Monday, August 13th, 2018, when Chris Watts decided to just take out his entire family.
We want to know where you were that day too. You're dating a man who did some egregious stuff, and we want to show that you were never near him that day.
Pregnant Shanann Watts and their two daughters. Horrific case, of course. So then the mistress comes out that Wednesday, August 15th. She does her first audio-only interview. It's horrible. It's in a park. Her dog is there. Her dad is there. We had that. There was no video interview. But that very next day, after Chris confessed, at least in part, to his crimes, Nicole Kassinger gave another very critical interview. They brought her into the police station. She was there with her dad.
And so I called my dad, because he's like the only person that I trust with everything in the whole world. And I was just like, I have a problem.
August 16th.
Hi, Chris. My name's Kevin. Or Jim. And I'm not saying you have to give it to you.
Just leave Jim alone.
If at some point,
if
at some point I needed Jim's info to, let's say we couldn't find your phone records, would you tell me who Jim is?
I will give them to you.
For the longest time, for years, despite all my requests, I got the runaround. I heard the audio of that interview, but of course we like to see video. That's why you're watching me now. People like to see faces. We want to see like real people, our mannerisms, our expressions. Lord must have been willing because, over the years I kept asking and asking. I kept getting denied. In fact, I felt like one public records woman, it was almost like she took pleasure in denying me. She was just like, oh yeah, I've seen it and it's in there. It's in the evidence locker. But no, it kept getting denied. So that letter of intent to sue, I wasn't asking for anything illegal. I was just asking for Nicole Kassinger's interview. The public wanted to see it. Everyone wanted to see it. The Lord must have been willing, because that intent to sue caused them to truly look for it, and they're like, oh, we don't have it. Turns out CBI, thank God for Kevin Kobach. I think somehow his department or someone related to him must have found it, and they released it to Shanann Watts' brother, and he published it to his YouTube channel on March 2nd, 2022. So it was soon after I wrote the intent to sue. Now since then it's traveled all over the world and back, and people have gotten to see Nicole Kassinger's mannerisms when she's speaking about the victims.
Or he just answered. Either way, it was a very short talk to him where he was just like, I have to go. the cops are here, and I don't remember if he said that on the phone or over text.
That's
I don't
okay.
even, I'm so tired.
That's fine. You don't
But
need
either
the
way,
different,
like,
it's
the
just
cops,
the context.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will figure it out. The cops are here, and I'm just like, all right. And then
Some people might say, what does it matter? Who cares? To me and many others, it really matters to see Nicole, to see her father there, to see her father hug her, see her like, why? You know that famous part.
no, you're the woman that had an affair with this man who took out his whole family. And I take a step back, and it's just like, I didn't know. Like, it's, he's so disgusting. I'm so ashamed of him and everything, and I just,
And you know, on our end, we
God,
didn't.
they're so cute. They're so little. Like, why? Why? How? I don't even understand how you could, like, bring yourself to do that to somebody who's, like, that big. Oh, Jesus.
Take a minute. Do you want to step out for a minute?
No, I just need to chill with my eyes closed for a sec. I still cannot believe this is happening. Alright, let's keep going, because we're just
Let's-
getting to
let's-
the meat of this whole situation.
Let's get to the phone call on Saturday from 9 to 11.
And how Nicole was clutching her hands when she was finally forced to say Shanann's name.
Okay.
He went to North Carolina and he was trying to rehab his marriage with his wife.
He
Do
said
you
he
know
was-
her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right.
Those guys filed bankruptcy for a lot of money in
Who are those guys?
to that couple
Okay.
in 2015. Oh, Shanann and Chris
Thanks.
filed bankruptcy in 2015. I saw him a few times. I saw him this past Saturday. I saw him the Wednesday before that. And he wanted to see me more. I was the one who wanted my space. I was like, nope, your kids are home. Go hang out with your kids. Because she's, like, really did not care for Shanann.
All the weirdness. This type of evidence is crucial. It belongs to the tax-paying public after all. I mean, I plan to give the IRS a grip soon. I give them nearly a grip every month. I owe, I pay. What we're paying for is, we're paying for body cam videos, for microphones. We're paying for, law enforcement, all their stuff to create those interviews. It belongs to us unless it's deemed not releasable for some reason. It doesn't belong sitting in a CD, wasting away in some evidence locker due to chain of command, kerfluffles or whatever. Now, for Mackenzie Shirilla's case, this is why it's important. This is why I'm feeling that fire again today. We have made it through all 97 of her jail phone calls. So look for that link below if you haven't heard them all. They're a doozy. I finally finished publishing and editing all 97 jail phone calls. I like to take out all that front stuff and not waste your time with all of that. I've listened to basically all of them. That 97th one, I was like doing other stuff. I need to re-listen. But basically, people are confused. Those jail phone calls are only from August 2023. Even though they don't give us any dates, it's very difficult. If you want to download all 97, have fun, the raw audio files are below. They're linked to. So we don't have any dates, but I was able to determine they were from August 2023. Mackenzie Shirilla was transferred from juvie to Cuyahoga County, the Justice Center in Ohio. She was preparing to stand trial, this big murder case. And we've learned some invaluable stuff from these calls. It's already bad enough that her entire trial was not live streamed. I don't think you can get video of the trial from anywhere. I guess I could try again. I've tried to get some of her juvie stuff, and I even filed a motion with the court, and that was rejected. So to me, it's important to get all the evidence we can to have it on record. I mean, have you seen Rotten Mango's excellent breakdown of Mackenzie's calls, and especially the breakdowns of the text messages between Dominic Russo and Mackenzie? And what about also Ryan's Real Reactions or Brandy Investigates? If you haven't seen them, I suggest you go watch those YouTubers, their breakdowns, and the readings of those text messages. I've put their links below. I mean, Ryan and Brandy are literally reading all 90,000 or more text messages. I'm just thinking about Ryan and the funny way he really just reads them. He brings them to life. What they reveal, even though it's a very serious topic, I mean, I see they just put a warning on Mango's video for not wanting people to think about harming themselves, because Rotten Mango, Stephanie Sue, she literally picked out messages, you know, sat at her dining room table or whatever and went through them. She found messages of Mackenzie, you know, telling Dom, oh, I hope you die in an accident, and blah, 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 all these things. I mean, it's good to listen to them. You know, I put these people on my watch later and I get to hear the entirety of the case. And like Ryan said recently, you know, people might clap back at Ryan. They turn on Dominic. They call him this drug dealer or whatever. Like Ryan said, look, does that mean Mackenzie had the right to take Dominic's life and Davian's life? Okay, what if Dom may have had some type of reactive abuse? You know, people, they can have reactive abuse against their abusers. There can be a point where they're fed up and they go off. There was that one video we saw, Mackenzie, you know, made her mom find it on the phone, give it to her lawyer Jim, and Mackenzie was mad. They didn't play it in court. You know, Dominic was yelling at Mackenzie like, look, he'd had enough. And I'm not saying everything Dominic has done was correct, not by any means, but he's paid for it with his life, okay? He is gone, you know, and so is Davian. Did Mackenzie have the right to take their lives? No. There's that video Dom's going off on Mackenzie in the car like, you know, if you're being so disrespectful or whatever, I'll whip this car over right now. They're trying to use that evidence against him to say he would, you know, crash the car, which isn't what he said. That's why the actual pure evidence is important. Did Chris Watts have the right to take pregnant Shanann's life or the lives of their children just because some people think, oh, Shanann was a little too bossy or whatever? Or I've seen some horrible videos. This one woman was like, oh, Nicole Kessinger was so much better for him, and oh, it just got really ugly. I won't even say everything she said. This is why evidence is important. So the narrative can't shift over the years and this evidence just go by the wayside just because no one's ever requested certain things. In Mackenzie's case, I've noticed a little bit of a tide shifting, maybe not much, but with some people trying to cast Mackenzie as this little innocent waif, you know, she probably had a medical emergency. Some people may have only watched the crash. Some people have delved really far into the evidence. And for whatever reason, they're taking a shine to Mackenzie, and it's almost like a little wink, wink. You know, like, girl, I know you did it. You know, I know you crashed into the wall. It's almost as if, who cares? Let me jump on the Shirilla bandwagon and let me repeat these stupid talking points they have about, oh, it's only 4.7 seconds of evidence, Steve Shirilla says. That's all we have to go on. Who can show me any evidence that she intentionally crashed that car? Well, that's what all these text messages, all the phone calls, the entire road she drove down, it's a collective of evidence. The preponderance of the evidence is what they always ask a jury to look at. They don't tell a jury, just look at this 4.7 seconds of black box evidence we have for the crash. No, a jury would have gone over all these text messages. They would have looked at the timeline. They would have seen, okay, Mackenzie was more desperate to be around Dom maybe in 2020, but then 2021, a little bit of a shift happened. Maybe Dom was going through some stuff, and sometimes he was kind of following hard after Mackenzie, and she was hanging around Grace more. You know, when she started being able to drive and do her own thing, you know, she would like not respond to Dom for days, but she was always annoying. Always with the babe, where are you? People when they talk about evidence, we need to talk about the entirety of the evidence. That's why it's important to have all the evidence we're allowed to have. I'm not talking about invading someone's privacy, but if not for the phone calls and text messages, we would lack a lot of context that exposed who Mackenzie really was, her truly toxic and volatile and vile relationship with Dominic Russo. So that's why I fight so hard for it not to be buried. And Mackenzie's parents won't stop fighting to change the narrative. I don't want to stop fighting to expose the truth. It's not like Mackenzie is accepting her fate, thanking God in heaven, our sovereign Lord, that she only got 15 years instead of 30. I mean, she could be out potentially in 11 years, depending on what a parole board sees fit to do. It's not like she humbled herself, under the mighty hand of God so that he could exalt her. She's still going off. She's still fighting. She's still appealing. She is still pushing the narrative, like through her parents or whoever her little minions are, fighting for her Mackenzie support team and anyone willing to get on there and be her mouthpiece and lie for her. She's still fighting to paint Dominic as a demon or, whomever else, or throwing spaghetti against the wall. It was maybe a medical emergency. She sat her butt on there with her top bun on Netflix and got maybe 70 million views worldwide now saying, I think it was a medical emergency. What do you think about that? My attorney sitting off scene. It's important to look at patterns. Patterns are important. Evidence is critical. So let's look at more of it. And let's talk about how the tide is shifting and how we have to keep the truth at the center. So these videos that came out July 14th, 2022, this was 17 days before the crash. There was some stadium tour up here in Cleveland featuring Motley Crue, Def Leppard, special guest Poison, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. So Dom, I guess he's wearing a vintage Motley Crue t-shirt. He was riding to the venue. So this was indeed July 14th. Wow, only 17 days before the crash. It's funny how some people are using these videos to blame Christine Russo, Dom's mom, his grief-stricken mom. Some people are trying to claim, see, they were smoking weed around her. She allowed all this stuff. She allowed underage drinking. She allowed this and that. Whatever she allowed or didn't allow, she was not the one who got in that car and crashed it into a wall, intentionally killing 2 souls. She didn't have the right to kill. So then we all know what happened. July 31st, 2022, the crash happened. Then November 4th, 2022, Mackenzie was arrested. Now, let her parents tell it, oh, how dare they arrest my baby girl, and she was on the road to therapy. Mackenzie is really good at trying to whip people into her line of thinking, trying to do the Jedi mind trick, which doesn't work on those of us who have the mind of Christ, okay? Who can discern a snake in the grass, who can discern truth. And I still say this with all love, because you guys know me, I minister to women in jail. It's not about her committing a crime. It's not about her having whatever issues she has had. It's about if she changes during the time of her incarceration. In fact, my ministry leader, she calls it your incarcerification. Some women, some people, they can do their time and they can really change. They can really be responsive to the Lord. They can really say, oh goodness, Lord, look at what I did. I'm so sorry. I've only heard Mackenzie be really contrite once. I don't even know if she was true about it. And this was during those jail calls, 97 jail calls. That's all we have. We don't have any prison calls. But she literally said to her mom, when I get out, I want to do more stuff with you guys. She said that to her friend, too. She said it to her friend, Faith. Yeah, the one who spells her name weird, Faith. Faith was more of like, I guess, a childhood friend, and they remained friends. And Faith was going so hard for Mackenzie, and she was still in the Netflix documentary. Mackenzie said that to Faith, too. Like, I should have hung out with you more. And it's so funny funny to me that the people that Mackenzie was hanging out with, well, Rosie and Bubba, they still go pretty hard for her. But the other girl, Grace, and other people that she spent so much time with before, you don't hear them on those jail calls. Maybe you might see them on the messages. But anyway, my point is Mackenzie did feel a little bit of contriteness when she's like, I should have hung out with you more, Faith, when I was on the outside. With her parents, she's like, I should have done more things with you guys. Maybe she realizes, man, I was so laser focused on Dom, like the girl in Obsession. I haven't watched that movie yet. I'm like, I better not watch it. I don't know. But people are like, she was so obsessed with Dom. It's like she had to possess him. She had to have him. She wasn't going to let anyone else have him. All of these messages and everything lends itself to, yes, this girl intentionally crashed this car and killed this man. But instead of her ever admitting that, it's just like, nope, I don't know what happened. But she told her mom too recently in one of those calls, I don't know why I treated you guys so badly. And her mom, of course, was kind of like, oh, whatever. And I'm like, I would not have been like, whatever. Listening to those calls, her mother spent, this was like $100 on commissary because when she moved from juvie to this Cuyahoga County jail in order to prepare for her trial in August 2023, that's where all these 97 calls are from, her mom was trying to figure out the system. Mackenzie was trying to figure out the system. They talk about video visits quite a bit during the phone calls, but I have not seen hide nor hair of any video visits. I've only seen Mackenzie on video when she was like in a WebEx or Zoom hearing when her eyes got all big because she heard the last name Russo, Judge Russo. That's always funny to me. Right before the camera pans away, she's like, what? She thinks the woman was related to Russo, which I don't believe she was. But I don't see any video visits anywhere from juvie or from Cuyahoga jail. But we have the phone calls. And during one of the calls, Natalie, her mom, is trying to figure out, okay, I ordered you $100 worth of commissary. Mackenzie has the nerve to say, well, what kind of shampoo did you order? Her mom is like, Dove. Mom, well, what kind of this did you get? Well, I got you this and that and that. Mom, can you cancel it? Can you? Oh, no. This is consistent through a lot of these jail phone calls. No matter who I listen to, you don't hear a lot of thank yous. Finally, after she goes off, I'm like, do you know how many of those women down there I see, they would love to even get a visit? They would love for anybody to even put $5 on their books. And her mom spent $100 and she was complaining. And Lord knows how much her mom has spent now. I mean, it's like she's sapping the life out of her parents. I thank God every day she's not my child. But anyway, her soul can still be saved. Mackenzie complained a lot during these phone calls. She didn't show very much remorse. Of course, her mom was like, no, don't say anything. It could hurt this, it could hurt that. But we get to see a lot of contradictions. Natalie, in one of those last calls I listened to, she's like, first of all, they were theorizing about who told the prosecutor about what their little carny conversation was like in the hospital, what it was all about. Then, in one of these 2023 calls, Natalie is saying to Mackenzie, yeah, you did mention something about a seizure. You probably did say, oh, can I tell him I had a seizure or whatever? But then by the time it's 2026 now, Natalie goes on Chris Cuomo and says, oh no, we weren't talking about seizure. That would be a very difficult word to say in Carney. It would be like seizure. Chris is like, what? But those contradictions are important for a jury to weigh, especially ever if she gets a retrial or if any of this, I know her appeals have not gone through, but she did, put another reconsideration motion in just on July 6th based on that last Supreme Court of Ohio denial. So you never know which way this can go. But let me explain all these 97 jail phone calls, at least the timeline, so people can get it straight because people are confused. I've seen people ask, are we going to get to hear more prison calls? We've never heard any of her prison calls. Even some big YouTubers are like, well, I think this might be her prison call, or this might be from this year. I think this is from after the documentary. And I'm thinking, no. We've only heard August 2023 calls only when she was in jail. And this is why. August 7th, 2023, Mackenzie was out of juvie and she was beginning her bench trial, the trial with a judge. So the court had ordered the defendant, Mackenzie, to be transported from the Juvenile Detention Center to the Justice Center for trial beginning that Monday, August 7th, 2023. So from the point at which, beginning of August 2023, she's moved, that's when we start hearing these jail calls. That's why Natalie is comparing, oh, at juvie it costs this much, and now you can call me anytime you're here, and this is what's different, and Mackenzie's on the psych ward for her own protection, and she's still like going off about not wanting to be there. All these 97 calls we've been listening to over there on my Plunder Body Cam Videos YouTube channel are likely during the whole August 2023 period. So day one of the trial was August 7th, that Monday, opening statements and whoever testified. To me, it's bad enough we don't have that live stream. In one of Natalie's phone calls, she literally said out of her own mouth, it's not me, WKYC, it's Natalie Shirilla, go blame her. I see they put a statement out, kind of refuting it, but Natalie told Mackenzie, yeah, they didn't live stream the entire trial. I think we only got to see, of course, the verdict and the victim impact statements. We got to see little snippets of like when Natalie testified, or, you see snippets, you don't see an entire trial. Natalie on a jail phone call said, I think they did that as a favor to Daddy. That's because Daddy, Steve Shirilla, used to work for WKYC. Now, I don't know what Natalie, if she's saying is true or not. Did someone get the approval from the judge to live stream the whole freaking trial and they just didn't show up because of a favor to Steve Shirilla? I hope not. But it's bad enough we don't have all of that. Some people have transcripts. Tuesday, August 8th was day 2 of the trial. August 9th was day 3 of the trial. And then Thursday, August 10th was day 4 of the trial and closing arguments. And then Friday, August 11th, some of them I was able to figure out the exact date based on the context. Mackenzie was talking to her mom in jail. She's hoping she was found not guilty. She says, Judge Russo doesn't like women. That was Mackenzie's thought process. Mackenzie was truly stunned. I think she literally thought she was going to get off because she kept speaking about, when I get out of here, when I go home, I want to live with you guys for a little while. And then I want to become, a life coach, or she maybe wanted to get back into modeling. She was like, almost thought this was going to be a blip on the radar because she had all these run-ins with police before, and even in juvie, I can link to her records. She treated teachers like crap. She treated some of the students like crap. She treated her mom like crap. There is this article where one of the girls speaks out. I'm not sure if it was the one who was in that Mean Girl Murders or another girl, but I can find the article. She literally said, Mackenzie, when she was younger, with her mom, her friends were there, they were driving somewhere, Natalie was saying something, driving, the kids around. Mackenzie told her mother, shut the F up. And the girl said, you know what? Her mother shut the F up. I was like, oh no, it couldn't have been me. I don't like to curse on this channel, but, I have acted un-Christ-like and cussed out and had some public freakouts. Unfortunately, one very public freakout when, I've had it up to here with kids and the not listening and the disrespect. So that wouldn't have been me. But Natalie and Mackenzie on one phone call, Mackenzie was kind of apologizing, but then Natalie was like, oh, it's okay, honey. You were a teenager, whatever, and you should have seen this other girl. The way she talked to her mom is horrible. And I'm like, how much more horrible can you get than telling your mom, shut the F up, especially in front of other people? And then her mom was quiet? What kind of hold does this girl have over her parents? And I don't know, I'm not saying they shouldn't support her. Support can look like, yes, writing letters, visiting. Natalie was like, I hate Strongsville. We can buy a house down there near Marysville, and we can maybe visit you all the time. So I don't know if they ever moved, but anyway, the verdict was that Monday, August 14th, Mackenzie was found guilty. Her mom, in the phone call, she said she had a feeling that's what was coming. Mackenzie seemed thunderstruck. That's when reality hit her, wait, I was able to get away with all the other stuff in juvie. I was able to do all this other stuff, so I can't drive my boyfriend and his friend into a wall and kill them and get out. Like, don't you believe me that maybe it was a medical emergency? Never mind the fact that Steve allegedly told someone right there at the hospital, pay attention to my daughter because she just tried to take her own life and took the lives of, these two guys. So Steve might not want that type of evidence to be out there, but it's out there. He can deny he said it. People can try and rewrite history, but I just want history to stand for whatever literally happened. Now, Mackenzie was sentenced that Monday, August 21st, 2023. Remember, Bubba went ham. We looked at that body cam video. He's so confusing. He's interesting. He was like, I don't give an F if that girl spends the rest of her life in jail. But then he's defending Mackenzie Shirilla. Well, anyway, emotions were running wild. So despite many people being confused about, where are all those 97 jail phone calls from? They're just from Cuyahoga County Jail. It's all of them. No dates, but by contextual clues, we can see they're from August 2023. None of them are from ORW prison, or it seems from any time other than August 2023. And I understand that. So now, moving forward, my 2026 quest to get more public records. So you guys have seen a lot of the evidence released that wasn't released as part of the big batch of discovery. Mackenzie's crazy driving habits, that hit skip where she claimed it wasn't her school records, there's so much. So it's not like she's doing her time quietly. She's down there in ORW. She's not going quietly into that good night like, thank you God, I only got 15 years instead of 30. If I'm a model inmate, maybe I can get out in 11 years. She would still be really young in her 30s, even though she claimed she'd be way too old to have kids. If it's the will of God, she could get out, find a husband, have kids, do whatever. She's not going quietly and serving her time. She's still fighting to be seen. She's still fighting to change the narrative. She appeared in The Crash on Netflix to basically plead her case. She could be out in 11 years. What if she hasn't changed? Certain prisoners change, like Susan Smith. She's always in trouble. She doesn't seem like she will change. Others, we don't know. This is not a slight against anyone who has, committed a crime and has served time. Some people really use it for their benefit. That's why my ministry leader says incarcerification, because she's like, look, use this time to read your Bible, pray to God, learn His Word, and learn, okay, why am I here? Now, some people truly are innocent, unfortunately, in jail. No matter what, even if you did it, it's like you ask, why am I here? Lord, get me out. Or when I get out, if I get out, let me use my time wisely. So I requested records for Mackenzie, disciplinary records, visitor history, phone call logs, all the standard stuff. I did get redacted records. They're citing exemptions for visitor and phone logs. So if you guys want to see that PDF of all her infractions, and granted, some of them I do think weren't her fault. Some of them I do believe were Mackenzie's fault, and she ended up saying, okay, guilty to this disciplinary thing or whatever. Other stuff might not have been her fault. So now I've been formally appealing, arguing that these logs are public record under this ORC code, section 14943, unless it's explicitly exempted by a statute. So then they come back and the legal confirms denial of visitor and phone logs, stating they're not public records under ORC 512021E. So I appealed again, and I asked for logs and added the messages and everything, because some stuff the laws haven't kept up with technology necessarily. So let me be brief here, kind of give you, the breakdown. For the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections Public Record Office, I wanted to add, okay, these communications that are generated through this ViaPath or the JPay tablets, people are like surprised. People think they have like an iPad in there and they could just do whatever they want. That's generally not true unless they have some contraband cell phone or iPad or whatever that's been jailbroken or whatever. There's only certain things they can go on. But I want to add on her electronic message logs and communications. Anything that's non-exempt. Text messages, e-messages, photo attachments, etc. After all, I said, Mackenzie, or technically her support team, they've been legally allowed to publish photos on Instagram despite her incarceration. So you've seen that whole Instagram thing, her latest, whoo, and I still think she's a pretty girl. It's just, you just don't want evil inside. And, the message she's putting out to the public. And according to TMZ, Mackenzie sent the dolled up photo from ORW to a family member through her tablet, ViaPath or whatever, used by inmates to stay connected to loved ones, which I think is great. I mean, the women I talk to, I'm like, oh, that's cool. They can watch sometimes The Chosen on there. They've taken it off recently. And anyway, so the spokesperson for the ODRC said, okay, they've reviewed this matter of Mackenzie sending this photo out. They determined, since Mackenzie didn't post the picture of herself directly to Instagram, because incarcerated individuals do not have access to social media platforms on the ViaPath tablet. Indeed, it's just, specific places. It's not like, oh, Instagram, Facebook. Even though, remember in one of the jail phone calls, Mackenzie was bragging about being in juvie. She was able to post stuff to Instagram. So this is why evidence is important. She did admit to posting stuff and sending messages or whatever on Instagram. So she had access to some contraband in juvie, but maybe not at ORW. I don't know. So the spokesperson said, look, prisoners are allowed to send photos to family members using the tablet in compliance with the prison's rules and regulations. So TMZ was like, translation, Mackenzie won't be disciplined because she didn't violate any protocols. That's fine. She's able to send photos out, like the photo she wants, the message she wants, put it out in public, go on Netflix, have her lawyer there, have a camera crew come in. So I'm like, what about our rights as a public to get the real deal? There's an image Mackenzie wants out. There's a narrative she wants out. A lot of people were able to refute some of the things she said by listening to all the public record jail phone calls, reading all those text messages, which we're still going through. Thank God for the other YouTubers doing it. So I list some legal grounds for reconsideration. We need the express statutory exemption instead of just like a blanket denial, which I get. A lot of prisons or jails might do that because they don't want to deal with the public records requests. They don't want the next round of Mackenzie Shirilla evidence that I get, pray to God and Jesus, to make it, and then it's more attention on Mackenzie. And this is not about attention on her. This is about finding out the truth, since she won't serve her time quietly. That girl's on 70 million, Netflix accounts, basically, and growing. It could be 100 million by now. That's the last stat I saw released. She's putting herself out there. She's using the public, social media, to her advantage. Why can't we as taxpayers get what we are due when it comes to the same case? I talked about metadata logs are non-exempt operational records, metadata transmission logs, times and dates and recipient identifiers, admin records, all this stuff. Nothing containing personal medical info, no confidential informant statements, no security. The prison might be worried about, let's just deny everything we can under this blanket statement because, that's what the law says in terms of phone calls and video calls for ORW. But when it gets down to the JPay messages and the logs, there are exemptions. Public acknowledgement of routine review and non-confidentiality, and their duty to redact rather than a blanket deny. I get it. Resources sometimes are limited. Sometimes they don't want to have to go through like other institutions have done to provide us records and redact, like, let me take out these phone numbers or whatever, this is too personal, whatever. They don't want to go through all that. So they just hope, I'll just deny you and go away. Some people think public records are so easy to obtain. Some of them are. Thank God I got all that Siders video. I was like, expected a denial. That lawyer was like, yes, here you go. And that's an Ohio jail. So grace of God, let me tell you. So basically, I'm formally asking them to reconsider my request for visitor history logs, phone call logs. Okay, I know the audio can't be released, the video content can't be released according to the law. So more details, and then I even told them, look, Shirilla and her family have vowed to fight, basically until she's freed. Dom and Davian, I pray they're just free in heaven with Jesus now. They can't fight for their lives. They can't go on and go get married and go have children and go live the rest of their lives. But anyway, Shirilla and her family have vowed to fight. Even in her most recent July 6, 2026 motion for reconsideration was filed with the Supreme Court of Ohio. It keeps her in the news. Let me flip over there. This latest case, there was an update just 5 days ago. So Mackenzie's lawyer filed this motion for reconsideration for her. There was a decision. Jurisdiction was declined. They didn't even want to see her Supreme Court of Ohio appeal. But of course, they put in a motion to reconsider. Shirilla's lawyer, Mackenzie's lawyer. And now, on July 16th, 2026, there's a memorandum in opposition to the motion for reconsideration. So the state is coming back against Mackenzie's latest, come on, reconsider. If Mackenzie can ask reconsider so much, why can't we, as a viewing, tax-paying public, ask to reconsider so we can see what she's really up to in there? So I won't read this whole thing, it's just 4 pages, but they're like, this court already rejected Shirilla's supplemental jurisdiction request. This is the Cuyahoga County prosecuting attorney, Michael O'Malley. It should do so again. Creating a new Shirilla specific exception is a matter for Broad Street, not Front Street. I had to literally ask, wow, what does he mean by that? I was asking Gemini. I was like, that's quite a turn of a phrase. The phrase, a matter for Broad Street, not Front Street, is a legal idiom used in Ohio to distinguish between the roles of the Ohio legislature and the Ohio judiciary. Front Street refers to 65 South Front Street in Columbus, the address of the Supreme Court of Ohio. Broad Street is referencing the Ohio State House, the state legislature. So it says when prosecutors or litigants use this phrase, such as in the State versus Mackenzie Shirilla, they are arguing that a requested legal remedy requires changing or creating new statutory law, a legislative duty for lawmakers on Broad Street rather than interpreting existing laws. That's the function of the Supreme Court on Front Street. So it's a lot of brouhaha. I do think they need to settle the matter of, 365 days versus, a year, and what do you really mean, and what happens if it's a leap year. But anyway, I continued to write that Mackenzie's participation in this true crime documentary, The Crash on Netflix, a massive global hit that's gained at least 65.2 million views on the platform or more, it's made her a worldwide known inmate. The public interest is unprecedented, so nobody better come and say, oh, there's not enough public interest you've proven. And I wrote, as such, the public has a right to know the information they are legally allowed to know about this person who continues to battle her court case in the courtrooms as well as in the court of public opinion. And I wrote, I'm prepared to consult legal counsel regarding all of the above. So that's my whole point in making this video. I just want to know. I was like, have there been lawsuits against ORW? And there's no widely publicized landmark lawsuit where an external attorney sued the ORW exclusively to obtain general inmate-to-inmate or personal electronic messages under the Ohio Public Records Act. However, as one of the Braxton girls says, attorneys and incarcerated individuals frequently sue the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, ODRC, the parent agency operating ORW, over prison communications, electronic kites. That's how the women, I think they come to our prison ministry, like you have to kite for stuff, like if you want to request stuff, to do in jail or whatever all it, contains, and the message logs. So basically, there have been public records lawsuits over inmate messages, electronic kites as public records. Inmate communication with prison staff, largely conducted through electronic messages, often called kites, via, JPay, ViaPath. We've seen, I think, some of Brian Koberger's, but I believe his were just written at the time. Okay, it says when inmates or their legal reps request copies of these kites or grievances, admin messages, prison records custodians sometimes improperly deny them. Just like with Brian Koberger's case, I think we got a few of them, and then I felt like they were like, oh, no more, because they kept seeing, okay, his kites are making the news. He's bitching about bananas or something, and he's like saying, oh, woe is me on all this stuff. And it makes it public, and granted, I don't want to make any jail worker or prison worker, I don't want to make their job more difficult, because then the attention is focused back on that inmate. However, if we are legally allowed as a public to these records, I mean, this is America, these are our laws, we're not in a different country which are stricter with public records laws, then I just want to see whatever we're legally entitled to see. It says the Supreme Court of Ohio has repeatedly ruled against ODRC facilities in mandamus lawsuits for unlawfully withholding or delaying the release of electronic kites, admin records, incident reports. So this is what could be cited. It could be cited maybe in a letter I write if I should, or a lawyer. Landmark cases, there is a Mobley versus the Ohio DRC, Adkins versus Lebanon Correctional Institution. The court ordered prison officials to turn over electronic communication records and mandated that the state pay maximum statutory damages of $1,000 in court costs for unreasonable delays. You can't just say, no, if I'm asking for something that the public is legally entitled to under Ohio public records laws. General admin kites and staff communication can be compelled via public records lawsuits. ODRC frequently invokes this 5120.21, which exempts specific inmate medical records, mental health protocols, personal supervision files from general public disclosure. So you can't throw everything under the one umbrella to just deny us everything. Now, litigation specific to ORW. Legal actions are typically brought against the ODRC director, the ORW warden, or specific records custodians in their official capacities rather than the physical prison facility itself. Makes sense. It says ORW has been the subject of numerous federal civil rights lawsuits concerning inmate safety, medical care, staff misconduct. Attorneys routinely subpoena internal institution records, disciplinary logs, all that stuff. Major lawsuits over digital mail and electronic messaging. A significant legal controversy involving inmate communications in Ohio prison centers on how confidential legal mail and electronic messages are processed and monitored. So there was some mail lawsuit. The Ohio Justice and Policy Center, this nonprofit law firm, filed a major civil rights lawsuit against ODRC over its legal mail policy variants. Under this policy, and I think prison staff should be allowed, they're able to open confidential attorney-client correspondence outside of the inmate's presence, scan the physical letters into digital files to be delivered as electronic messages or inmate tablets, and shred or discard their original. Let me tell you why they should be allowed to do that. I'm with the prison officials on this one. Some prisons, as part of the prison ministry team, they're not even allowed to bring in paper anymore because people have soaked substances in paper. They've put it behind stamps. They've done all this stuff. They've learned over time. People have kind of given this contraband to the inmates via letters, that can get them high. So you know what I mean. We can't even give Bibles anymore. We have to put them in the inmate's property and they have to have the dog sniff them first. I'm glad at least we can still give physical papers. And attorneys challenging ODRC argued that converting private legal correspondence into digital messages, tramples on attorney-client privileges. Now, I do believe inmates have their rights. I'm not saying, open up everyone's phone calls, open up everyone's videos. I get it. No phone calls, no videos from ORW. Whatever we are allowed to get, let's get that. Like in Florida's great. Sometimes we see a lot more stuff. Of course, when people are in jail, sometimes you see a lot more things than when they're in prison. However, that evidence, of course, can be used against you in a court of law, and I'm sure it can be used when parole time comes. I'm not about making Mackenzie Shirilla more famous. She's doing that on her own. With the Netflix documentary, who knows what's next, if she'll participate in any other interviews. Her parents are out there fighting for her. She's keeping her name in the public, hoping to, again, Jedi mind trick us all into thinking she's a sweet little girl who did nothing and she's just been totally railroaded. If people only listened to the Shirillas, they would think, how dare you guys put this girl in prison? It was totally an accident. That's what Mackenzie always says. She acts like, you're just driving down the street and oops, rear-ended someone, which she has done when she wasn't paying attention and then skip that one. But she's acting like it was some minor accident or some major accident that was just an accident, not an intentional crash. She acts like she's playing in God's face, like she did not take two beautiful souls off this earth. And she has her parents doing her bidding, and it's not even like they're coming from it from a humble place of like, okay, she was screwed up, she freaked out, maybe Dom was going to leave her, or maybe she was whatever, and she knows she did the wrong thing, but she's been serving her time, and maybe by 2037, on good behavior and everything she's done since then, she can get out. It's not even like they're coming at it from that way. They're coming at it from, oh, those Russos are an evil bunch, and they were able to manipulate the system and get Mackenzie locked up for it. No, she killed two people. Like all you Mackenzie Shirilla fans, let me just tell you, would you like it if that were your son or your whomever, someone you loved in the car with her, and she crashed it into a wall, perhaps intending to take her own life, miraculously surviving so she could stand trial? That's my belief. Would you be fighting so hard for her if someone you loved were in that car and she killed them? Would you be willing to twist the truth and manipulate and do whatever it is you're doing for whatever reason you're doing it? Again, I have compassion for inmates, but it's all about your attitude and how you serve the time after the crime. If you're going to keep pretending and trying to manipulate, what's to say Mackenzie won't get out when she's in her 30s and still drive crazy? And still just, try and be a model and still whatever we do by 2037, still make selfie videos and still drive around smoking weed and still running into people or crashing and killing her husband, God forbid, or her son or someone. Like, we've got to see the change. We've got to see the remorse. We've got to see the contriteness. That's why I'm not all on this free Kenzie bandwagon that she's so focused on. No matter what she's done, like, free me, I'm too pretty to be in jail. I'm not on that boat. I like to see change from within. So my questions for any lawyers experienced in suing ODRC for public records: how much is your retainer, first of all? Very important. Which lawsuits have you successfully won against any prison or jail or any institution in getting public records? How much would you charge to write a letter of intent to sue? Please comment below. All these things are important. It's important to know who a person really is. Mackenzie's messages that we got as a result of public records, they reveal who she really is. Will she truly change over these years? I hope so. Will she continue to play dumb and blame her victims? Come out of prison even more dangerous? I hope not. Daniel 5:5. Suddenly the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall, near the lampstand where it was bright in the royal palace. The king watched the hand as it wrote. That's where they get the writing on the wall from. And the writing on the wall for that king was he was too full of himself, just like his predecessor. But I believe, it's different. King Nebuchadnezzar, his predecessor, was full of himself, but he went through, he did a 7-year bid off in the woods where he lost his mind and, the dew of the earth, made his hair grow and his nails like claws. But then he came to himself and he recognized God as God. But the guy who succeeded him apparently did not learn from his predecessor's mistake, and it's a lot of times it's arrogance and pride that's a person's downfall. So this guy saw the writing on the wall after having this big banquet and misusing some of God's things, and that was it for him. That was his life was over that night. So it just shows us how much pride and arrogance can be our downfall. And I see a lot of crazy stuff in Mackenzie. I haven't put my finger on it, but it's, and I hope she's not still like that. And the messages would reveal, if she's saying one thing publicly, like, it was just an accident, it was this or that, and Natalie and Mackenzie are like, when will we ever have a private conversation? And I know she messages her mom a lot. I'm not trying to dig into their private life. I'm thinking if she's going to continue to publicly appeal and publicly put out a certain narrative on Netflix and try and get all these free me people and all this money she's collecting and everything, the public has a right to the public records to see, is it lining up? Is she saying something different in her messages that would be important to bring into a court of law? Or just to know the truth, basically. You know, she put one narrative out there, but we could hear via her phone call. She was a terror. The way she talked to her mom was terrible. I hope she's not like that anymore. So anyway, thank you, especially all you attorneys and lawyers or anyone experienced in this field, for your comments, and hopefully it'll bubble up and I'll just pray about the next step. I don't know. If God wills it, let his will be done. We'll see what happens with these public records, and stay tuned. Of course, I'm trying to get others in the Nolan Wells case and all these other cases. Thank you. Take care.